Hello friends, let us continue lesson number 3. This is the second video of this lesson, and we are discussing about the planning in Indian economy. In the previous video, which was the first video of this lesson, we looked at the historical context, basically the pre-independence times. What was the economic situation in India during the British rule, and what were the conditions that led to the Indian government after independence adopting planning as a means to develop our economy. So basically, friends, when we talk about planning, keep one thing in mind, that planning is related to a socialistic kind of economy, okay, where there is state intervention. Basically, state is intervening in the economic activities. So state intervention is there. State decides resource allocation. States will run the factories. States will do the business. They will control each and every business activity, because in the initial phase, the economy needs support from the state so that it grows on a correct path. So it is a kind of socialistic approach to develop the economy. And it was mostly influenced from the USSR, the then USSR, which is Union of Soviet Socialistic Russia. So our leaders at that time were influenced by this philosophy, and hence we adopted planning post 1947 as a means to develop our economy. So you must be knowing that broadly there are three kinds of economy. One is capitalistic economy, where everything is left to the free market and private sector. Another one is this socialistic, where there is state intervention. Okay, there is state intervention, and something in middle is basically the mixed economy. So some of the important sectors are handled by the government, that is state, and others are left to the private sector. So initially in 1947 we were mostly towards the socialistic or state-run economy. Then slowly we are moving towards the mixed economy kind of setup. So currently we are a mixed economy. As we developed, we are moving from socialistic setup towards the mixed economy. So this is the background. So why we adopted planning post 1947? As we have seen in the previous video, when the Britishers left us, Indian economy was fragmented and underdeveloped. There was a lot of poverty and inequality in the people. Almost 80% of the people were living in were dependent on agriculture, and there was agriculture was having very low productivity. So state intervention was necessary to address the long-standing structural weaknesses of the economy. So we felt that state should intervene in this matter, and in order to resolve the structural weaknesses of the economy, in order to improve the economy. Now, the first reason was basically the need for economic self-sufficiency. So our leaders at that time, they felt that we should be self-sufficient. Our economy should be self-sufficient in terms of food production, in terms of basic industrial goods, etc. So we have to become self-reliant, reducing dependence on foreign imports and foreign capital. Planning was seen as a way to systematically develop key industries, reduce foreign dependence, and encourage domestic capabilities. So it was believed that if we do a proper planning, 5-year planning, then we will be able to increase industrialization in the country, reduce dependence on foreign capital also, and also on the foreign imports. So we used to import even the food items at that time, because our agriculture was very, very poor. Next one is tackling poverty and inequality. So we had to challenge these problems, which was poverty and inequality. We had to fight them. Rampant poverty, high levels of unemployment, rural distress was present. State-directed investments in infrastructure, agriculture and industry deemed essential. So because there was not a lot of private sector participation, it was not possible also. So state thought that we need to make investment in basic infrastructure such as roads, right, electricity, agriculture, meaning irrigation projects, giving people irrigation, better quality of seeds, fertilizers, chemicals, etc. And also to develop industry. So it was deemed to be essential. Planning allowed the government to prioritize poverty alleviation and employment generation in a structured manner. So our first priority was to reduce poverty and also to generate employment. So state thought that through planning we will be able to achieve these targets. Then promoting industrialization. So we had to develop our industry also. Industrial base was necessary for modern economic growth and development. State-led planning model emphasized creation of heavy industries like steel, machinery, which could form the backbone of the future industrial economy. This I told you in the previous video also, that these are called the basic industries. So steel, iron, machinery, chemicals, these are the basic industry, because once these industries are developed, it can form a backbone for other industries also to develop. They can supply them the required machinery and support. Then inspiration from the Soviet model of economic planning, as I have told you, from the USSR. Rapid industrialization happened in USSR through this model. So our leaders thought that we will also be able to develop in a similar way. Central authority to control key sectors was seen as necessary to overcome the market's inability to direct capital towards industrialization. So there should be a central authority in the form of planning commission, which came later, that I'll tell you. So this central authority will control the key sectors, and it was necessary to overcome the market's inability. So private sector was not able to direct the investment in industrialization or to develop infrastructure. So state intervention was necessary there. Inefficient market mechanism. So as repeatedly I am telling you, private sector was not developed. Markets inefficient due to lack of infrastructure, capital and coordination. See, private sector also needs initial support from the government, such as basic infrastructure like ports, airports, railways, roads, road networks, electricity, etc., because it cannot be provided by private sector. These are basically the public goods. So markets were inefficient due to lack of these basic facilities. Private sector was too weak to lead to large scale economic transformation, and planning helped channel resources into priority areas where private investment was scarce, such as rural development, irrigation, heavy industries and transportation. So planning was necessary to invest into these areas, which was necessary to reduce poverty, reduce inequality, generate infrastructure in the country, develop infrastructure, and to generate employment. So these were the basic goals with which our initial years we had planned. Then political and social stability. Planning as a means to ensure political stability by addressing regional disparities and promoting balanced development across states and sectors. So India was a diverse country. Some of the areas were rich, some of the areas were poor, some of the areas had more development, some had very less development. So there were a lot of regional disparities also, different aspirations in the people. So we had to have a balanced development, and planning was seen as a measure to address this issue, to have regional balance, equitable distribution and prevent social unrest. So this was again an important thing, because we were a very, very diverse country. Then creation of institutions for economic development. Establishment of institutions like Planning Commission in 1950, central authority for drafting the 5-year plans. So we adopted 5-year plans basically, and who was the authority to draft this? It was the Planning Commission. To systematically design and implement development strategies. So what is the role of Planning Commission? To systematically design and implement development strategies that would guide the economy towards long-term growth. So they used to have a long-term vision in mind, and this long-term vision they would divide in 5 years, and this first 5 years what will we do, then in the next 5 years what will we do. So like that it used to be there. So and this Planning Commission used to make a roadmap for this 5 years. What are the priority areas? Then influence of socialistic ideas. I have already told you. Role of the state in managing the economy and reducing inequality. It was believed that state will be able to reduce inequality. Mixed economy approach. State controlled strategic sectors, but private enterprise was also allowed to operate under regulation. So from initial years only, we were having a little bit of mixed approach, but was more towards state intervention because the private sector was under a lot of regulations. There were a lot of licensing requirement, permission requirement, permit requirement. So it was mostly state controlled. So mixed economy basically means that there are both state players and the private players. Okay, so here I have summed up what were the goals of planning, why did we adopt it. First is to reduce poverty and inequality. This is the first thing. Then to promote balanced development so that we can address the challenge of diversity. Then the third was to industrialize our economy, rapid industrialization. And fourth was to achieve self-reliance in many terms. So self-reliance in terms of food security, in terms of agriculture, in terms of capital, meaning machinery, okay, machinery and infrastructure development, all these things. So we had to achieve self-reliance in these areas. Now, how much did we succeed? What was the success? That we'll see later. In the upcoming videos, we are going to discuss in detail about different 5-year plans so that you have an idea as to how from the 1950 onwards till today, how did we develop our strategies, okay, and what changes we had to make, what course corrections did we make, and how much successful we became. So let us continue in the next video. Thank you.